you guys, it's Karen, and I thought I would come and give you a quick HRT update and also give you a mini response to a negative comment. It wasn't a hate comment, it's not a troll. So what really bothers me is if ever any YouTuber talks about, you know, responds to a negative comment, you immediately get people saying, why are you giving attention to the trolls, or you should focus on the positive. But we're all human and we all will react more to a negative comment. And actually all the time and effort that I put into my videos is for everybody that leaves positive comments and everybody that's watching, you know, so it is only a small percentage of time the negative comments will be mentioned. But it's just because I thought that there might be some other people thinking the way this person did and maybe have made some assumptions or some misjudgments, and it's something that I can add some more information to. So that's why I'm talking about that. Okay, let me first tell you about HRT. I've got my delicious creamy coffee here. I'm doing keto at the moment, just for as long as I can manage, which is normally like less than a week. But I've already lost 4 pounds. I just lose so much if I can stick to keto. Okay, let's talk about the HRT and how it's affected things. If you see me looking left, it's because on my computer I've got a list of all the symptoms that I thought could be related to menopause. And so I'll go through them and see, you know, how different they are. So I've been on the HRT for just over a month now, and I've been on tablets. They're called Novafem. So I believe they have a milligram of estradiol in them. The patches would definitely be better in terms of safety and even bioavailability, you know, and patches is something I'm considering changing over to. So, firstly, sleep problems. This one's a tricky one because I had started sleeping a bit better before I started the HRT, but being on the HRT, I have not had as many problems sleeping at all. I am still getting up to go for a wee in the night, and so that does disturb me sometimes, and I find it a little bit more difficult to drop off, but it's not that same kind of going to bed and just tossing and turning for hours. And in fact, in the last week or so, it's been great. I've been going to bed, falling asleep as I used to, waking up to go for a wee, but waking up again then in the morning, you know, not having sleepless nights. So that's been huge. And I do feel like the HRT has contributed to that. But like I said, I was sleeping a little bit better before I started them, so I can't be 100% sure it was that. Joint pain, do you remember I was saying that my hands and fingers were hurting more than normal? Because I do have joint pain, but I normally have joint pain when I've overused them. So if I'm doing too much texting, they can hurt my hands, or too much at the computer, or lifting too many things, they can hurt. But they had got to the point where I was waking up because my finger joints and my thumb joint and this joint here particularly was hurting. That has gone away. I haven't had any of that pain at all. I've had other joint pain. My knees are still bothering me, my back's bothering me, my elbows are bothering me, but nowhere near the level they were at before I started the HRT. So I do think that that's contributed to that. Memory, I don't know whether my memory is any better or not. Frequent heavy periods. Now this one is interesting because I was told that it wouldn't affect it at all, it wouldn't stop it. So I was offered another drug to go with the HRT that would stop the periods altogether, but I refused that because I wanted to see, I mean, firstly, you don't know that you're postmenopausal till you've not had a period for a year, but if that was chemically stopped, it doesn't make sense that you would know, you know, it would just sort of mess things up too much. And so I haven't had any more bleeding for a month. And actually, usually you bleed the first week of the HRT, apparently. I didn't even realise that you still had periods on HRT. But I haven't had one, and I'm a week into this new packet. So I would suggest that that's, you know, maybe I'll never get another one. I don't know. But it's certainly, I'm not having those heavy month-long periods that I was having in the last few months. What the science says is that HRT isn't affecting that. So I suspect that that was just, the heavy periods were the sign that I was entering menopause, and that's the way that it happened for my mum as well. Hot flushes, that's been really interesting because again, I have had almost none. I've had a couple of days where I've thought, oh, I actually do feel quite hot today, and it feels like I might get a hot flush, but it hasn't actually happened. But I was glad when on the days it did happen, because it showed me that the HRT is still building up and there's more benefits to come, because I know one of you certainly told me that you didn't get the full benefits until 2 months, and the doctor did say it could take months until you feel the full benefit. But certainly I'm not having them on the daily, and I think that was almost instant. There's 3 things that have been improved the most. firstly, frequent urination. You guys know I already have a bladder issue, something that I go to see a urologist. I've actually chased up urology because I haven't seen them since January this year. And apparently I was supposed to go and see them in May, but of course with lockdown that didn't happen. So I'm waiting for another telephone consultation with the woman that did my urodynamics. So we'll see what she says, but it's actually worked out quite well that this time has passed, because up until HRT, the problem I had was during the day and at night again. I'd suddenly got this nighttime problem again where you go to bed. I had this years and years ago until I started amitriptyline, and amitriptyline has solved that problem up until about 6 months ago. 6 months to a year maybe, and I would go to bed, be completely tired, just get comfortable, like I need a wee again. And go for a wee before I go to bed, you know, then get up, go for a wee, go back to bed, just get comfortable again, need a wee again. Literally like probably less than 5 minutes in between each going to the bathroom. And that would happen like 6 or 7 times. It's so frustrating, I can't tell you, because you just get comfortable and about to drop off and then you need to go again. And sometimes I'd even get back in bed and then need to go again immediately. So that was really bothering me, and that was something I would have discussed with the urologist. But actually, since being on the HRT, that has greatly improved. I now go to bed and I get up probably one more time. So I'll go to bed and maybe half an hour later I might get up, have a wee, go back to bed. That is me then until the middle of the night, and I will usually need to get up once during the night, or I ignore it but it's uncomfortable and then does make me a bit sleepless. That's hugely improved. So it just shows me that although I've got bladder issues, a lot of it was to do with hormones. You know, a lot of it was nothing to do with the bladder issue and everything to do with hormones. The second thing was, of course, the headaches. And they have improved a lot as well. Not the severity of the pain that I get, because I've still been getting bad headaches and I have still been getting a few a week, but I haven't been getting them every single day, all day. There are some times during the day where I don't have a headache. It's still quite, I'm still getting frequent headaches, I'm still getting daily headaches, and I'm still getting sometimes very painful headaches, but they've definitely reduced a little bit. But number 3 is where the biggest change has been, and that is in that foggy brain that I thought was related to the headaches. But I'm now not sure. I now think the foggy brain might have been something different to the headaches. And a foggy brain, I wish I had a better word to explain it, because foggy brain to me sounds just, I think people use foggy brain as in memory problems, but that's not what I'm talking about. I just could never think of a way of describing it for how horrific it was, because it would be like a headache without the pounding pain. It's like somebody was crushing my skull, but without the pain. It's so hard to explain, but like I couldn't look at a screen, I couldn't hear any noise. I just felt kind of dizzy, just an awful feeling daily. You know, I just felt exhausted and not really with it, couldn't really focus on anything. That has so much reduced. That doesn't sound right. That has reduced so much. That's reduced a lot. Yesterday, I had none of it. Today, so far, I feel great. I cannot feel the muggy head coming on. Normally, I can feel it about 11. Oh, mind you, it's only 20 past 11, but normally about 11 o'clock I can feel it, and it can come on very quickly. But when I was on holiday, I didn't have any muggy head at all, other than one day, and it was combined with a headache. But holidays often I feel different, because I'm not sitting at a computer, I'm not working, I'm not stressed, you know, it's completely different. Then I had tonsillitis for a week, but then last week was kind of the tester. And I had 3 days where I was just bombing about all day. I say bombing about, I mean doing things all day, and I didn't need to sleep at all. In fact, I can't remember the last time that I actually slept, because even on the days where I've had this foggy brain, I haven't needed to lie down. I suppose sometimes I've been fighting it. You know, there have been days where I've had it, but it's been milder, and so I've been fighting through it, because I always used to try to do that. You know, I would try to fight through the pain. I was hesitating there because I can actually feel my headache coming on around about here. I can start to feel the throbbing. But it's not the same as the foggy brain thing. And with a headache, I at least have painkillers that I can take for it that help to a certain extent. There's nothing you can take for the foggy brain. There was nothing I could do to make it better other than lie down. But yeah, I am not needing to spend the afternoons sleeping and then spending the rest of the day kind of in a daze. It's just been amazing. So it was obviously those low estrogen levels were causing a problem. I'm cautious in saying it because, like I said, it has only been really last week and this week, and it hasn't been perfect by any means, but I would say there's at least a 50% improvement, probably more than that. So I'm, like I said, really excited to see how I feel after another month on it. Okay, that's all the good stuff. Let me tell you about 2 potential side effects. The first one is my polycystic ovary syndrome reared its ugly head. And for me, the biggest symptom, the most troublesome symptom from it was greasy skin and acne. And I have got acne breakouts all over my chin. I've got about 4 lumps on my chin at the moment, painful lumps. So cystic acne appeared pretty quickly. But that was caused by carb cravings and sugar cravings, which is another bane of my life having this polycystic ovary, is I would crave bread, sugar, chocolate, cake, things like that. Now, I know it's one thing to crave it and another to eat it, but unless you have the craving from polycystic ovaries or from a hormone imbalance, you won't understand its power. It is like, there has been documentaries on TV about the power of sugar and the craving for sugar. But when I'm on keto, that's the only time it all changes for me. And when my PCOS is under control. It's not that I don't have sugar and carb cravings, but they are so low key, it's like, and I described it to my friend once because when I was on topiramate for my migraines, it actually it changes your taste and reduces your sugar cravings. And I was saying to her that the last time I had met her for lunch, I went past Harvey Nichols and I had to go in and get cakes, and there was no way I was not getting those cakes. And I thought about those cakes all the way home. I'm surprised they lasted till I got home. They were for me and my husband. I wasn't going to have more than one cake, but I was practically drooling at the thought of them. And then you'll have one and then you want another one, and it's just a spiral. But then when I was on topiramate and I didn't have that sugar craving, I walked past Harvey Nichols and was like, you know what, I wouldn't mind a cake, but I'm not going to have one. And it showed me that, this is probably a whole nother video in itself, but it showed me that I was being too hard on myself my whole life for these sugar cravings. Because although you still have to give in to them, it shows you how powerful they are. Really, really powerful. Even like, I said to her, when I get my latte, when we have lunch, I always get a latte and they bring you out a bit of sugar tablet. I never wanted it and would never have asked for it, but once it was there, I couldn't not eat it. But once I was on the topiramate, I would just put it aside and go, no, I don't really need that sugar in my system. And I wouldn't even pay attention to it. I just didn't have the willpower before, and it's not a psychological thing, it's an actual physical symptom. The carb cravings, food cravings in general, I have been hungry all the time. My morning shake, I've had a protein shake for years, and it fills me up till lunchtime. I've been having it, and half an hour later, I'm like, what can I eat? I'm hungry. Having my lunch and then going, that isn't enough, I'm not full up, I need something else. And having crackers and like sugar-free jam, it's still fruit sugar, or having a banana or whatever. It's just been ridiculous. And that causes a flare-up of my acne, because polycystic ovary, if you've got polycystic ovary and don't want to take drugs, do a keto diet, do a low-carb diet. That in itself will sort it out because it's an insulin problem. So I'm back on keto this week, but keto itself, I tried to do a keto and I couldn't even do the keto. I failed like on the first day because of these cravings. But I think the reason that it came on is not because of the HRT alone. I think it's because I'd left off taking my cyproterone acetate, which is a polycystic ovary treatment, thinking that maybe being this age and being menopausal, the polycystic ovary might have died down a bit, because it does for some, it doesn't for, I remember the guy, my gynecologist, telling me for some women it gets better, for some it doesn't. But I wasn't sure if I could take the cyproterone acetate with the HRT. So I got in touch with the GP, and I also double checked it with the chemist because I wasn't 100% sure or 100% confident of what the GP was saying. So when I picked up my prescription, I double checked with the pharmacist, and she said, yeah, they're absolutely fine to take together. So I've been back on my cyproterone acetate for a week, and the cravings have gone. And so now if I eat a cake, it's definitely just a decision. It's not an intense need, if you like. But this is the result of, like Sunday night, for example, what are we now, Wednesday? So Sunday they were starting to disappear, but they were still there. And I said to my husband, we're having a Chinese takeaway for tea. And when I have Chinese takeaway, I have rice, curry sauce, and chow mein. And I don't eat the whole thing. I eat half of the chow mein, half of the rice, have a bit of curry sauce on, and I eat that with prawn crackers. And there's not much chicken in a chow mein, so it's mostly carbs that I was eating. And I don't normally crave a Chinese, but the result of all the carbs I've eaten is this skin. So that's one major side effect, if you like. That I don't know whether the HRT contributed to that, because I think I don't know, the hormones are so complex that it could have contributed. Let's leave it at that. The second one is a bit more worrisome. My blood pressure has gone up. Now, it didn't go up in the first week or so that I was on it, but I've been taking it this last week and it has gone up. And I've had many conversations with the GP, and I know that what they would ask me to do is to take my own blood pressure for 2 weeks. So I've taken it for a week, I'm going to take it for another week, and if it stays high, I'm going to have to get in touch with them and say, I might need to increase my blood pressure medication. I really hope that they wouldn't stop the HRT, because that would just be a disaster for me, because it feels life-changing already. I would be devastated to not be able to take it. But maybe going onto the patches might result in less of a rise in blood pressure, or then, like I said, they might increase my blood pressure medication. And the interesting thing about that is I've been on keto for 3 days, and normally on keto my blood pressure instantly lowers, because you have to be careful on keto, because it does lower blood pressure, that you can sometimes stop your medication because it lowers it that much, but it hasn't. It's still high. And so that's something I'm really going to have to keep an eye on, because if my blood pressure had have been what it is now, they wouldn't have given me the HRT. They'd have wanted my blood pressure to be controlled before giving me the HRT. My concern is, like I said, that they stop the HRT, but hopefully me being on it and having so much benefit from it, I can say to them, please give me medication, or let me try the patches or something, because it's making my quality of life has improved so much already. So that's everything about HRT. I was going to say quickly, I don't know whether it will be quickly, but let me go over this comment with you. So the comment, this is almost verbatim, but from memory on that day, and I then deleted and blocked it because this person has made. So that's everything about the HRT. I was going to say quickly go over this negative comment, but it might not be quick. This is almost verbatim. So the comment was, you seem nice, but I'm concerned that you are obsessed with finding something wrong with yourself. Why not take the medication the GP wants you to, rather than what you taught them into? You might be happier, ? I read that, I discussed it with my husband. I said, I don't understand how they've come to that conclusion, because it's so far away from what the actual facts are. But then I know that, I suppose I'm only doing, you're only getting an hour's worth of me every 2 weeks or whatever. And so I guess conclusions could be made, assumptions could be made. And so, like I said, I wanted to go through that, take that apart and say, this is what the actual truth is. But like I said, this is not a hater, and my biggest thing in life is to be understood, and so I like to have the right to reply, I guess. So the first thing, you seem nice, thank you, but I'm concerned you're obsessed with finding something wrong with you. This baffles me, because I have a lot wrong with me. I've already been diagnosed with a lot wrong with me. I don't need anything else diagnosed. What I'm obsessed with is finding pain relief, number one, and finding quality of life, being able to live my life. I want to get up and be able to make plans and be able to say, yes, I can take Watson for a walk at the weekend. But at the moment, I'm not unable to do that. And I'm unable to travel and see my family. I'm just not living life to the full until, like I said, this past month has been a big improvement. But I haven't been living the last 3 years. I've been existing and surviving and trying to get through each day and waking up each day and ending up back in bed by the afternoon, and I just feel like wasting my life away, and so many tears over that. So am I obsessed in finding something wrong with me? No, but I'm obsessed with finding pain relief and a solution to the very real problem that I'm having. Yeah. The other thing is, it says, why not take the medication the GP wants you to, rather than what you taught them into? That's so bizarre to me, because I don't know what she's talking about, because there's never been any medication that the GP has offered that I haven't taken. I have taken medication, I listed it down here. For urology, I took 4 different drugs, even though one of them made me feel sick. None of them made me feel good, but I took them all for the required amount of time and then was told to stop them from both the GP and the urologist. For migraine, I've taken 4 different drugs for those as well, including topiramate, which made me feel terrible, as you guys may know. For my knee, I took ibuprofen for years, which ended up in me getting stomach problems. I've always taken the drugs that the GP have offered. The only one that I was hesitant about was antibiotics years and years ago. I did take it, I just don't think I took it for the right length of time, because I was at the time working in the hospital, and all of our meetings seemed to be centered around you shouldn't take antibiotics, you know, so I think that probably influenced it. But I don't know why she thinks that the GP's offering me medication and I'm not taking it. It's just not the case. All that said, everybody disagrees on the medication I should be on, and actually speaking to the neurologist who says I've got migraines, the neurologist thinks it's ridiculous that I've been on codeine for so long. He thinks it's ridiculous some of the medications I've been given for my migraines, and that should have been referred to him sooner. So you can see that there is disjointed, you know, everybody thinks something different. So I just take whatever advice I'm given from the specialist that's in front of me. I wonder if it's maybe because I said the neurologist thinks I've got migraines and I'm not sure. But all I said is I'm not sure. I still think they're cervicogenic headaches, but I'm going to go with the treatment for migraine. I'm having the Botox for migraine. I've reduced my codeine. I should have said that in HRT. I've reduced my codeine a lot since speaking to the neurologist, and also since being on the HRT. And I've had my MRI. You know, I'm going down the route that the neurologist wants me to for migraines. So although I'm not 100% sure it's right, I'm still going down that route. I'm still following his advice, you know. The other thing that may have given this impression is that because if I've talked about my bladder issues, I've talked about how I always thought it was IC, or painful bladder syndrome, but I was diagnosed as having overactive bladder. Well, now, years and years and years later, they've confirmed that actually it is painful bladder syndrome. So with that one, again, my diagnosis was right in the first place, but I did follow all of their advice and I had all of their tests and all of their medication for their diagnosis. So I've always followed the professional's advice, but I also advocate for myself, you know. The last bit of it is the bit that I was like, it kind of contradicts itself, because she says, rather than what you talk them into, if you feel that a GP could be talked into something by a patient, would you really want to accept medication from them? Like, I wouldn't trust a GP that I could talk into medication. I can definitely go in and say, this is what I think I have, this is the medication I think might work for me. What do you think? That's what I do in my consult. Whereas Kev will go in, my husband will go in and go, this is the pain I've got, what do you think? What should I do? But actually now it's more patient-centered in GP practices and in, you know, with consultants, more so in the GP practice, and they're supposed to say, what do you think the treatment should be? What is it you were hoping for today? What is it you think you've got? And I've noticed that from my visits, from talking to my dad and his visits with them, from research, you know, when I was working in the hospital, it's changing and it is more patient-led. But they're not going to be talked into something. You know, I phoned up the GP and said, you know, I've been coming to you with headaches for 3 years in this foggy brain, and I'm realising my age. I'd quite like to try HRT to see if it helps it. And she went, yeah, that sounds sensible, but let's get your BP under control and blah, blah, blah. Let me tell you about the risks. If it was a doctor that was like, well, I don't agree with it, but you've talked me into it, like, hopefully there's not GPs like that out there, you know, that can be talked into something that isn't appropriate. And if they are, you know, she's telling me take the GP's advice, but don't talk them into something. It just doesn't make any sense, because like I said, GPs are not like that. And ironically, the GPs that I've seen in my GP practice, because you never get to see the same one, there's one on maternity leave, another one on maternity leave, another one's gone on sabbatical, another one's left to go to another practice, another one just disappeared, I don't know what happened there. I've seen lots of different ones. They all tell me something different. One of them would want me to stop all the medication I'm on. Another one thinks it's great and would add some more in. There's so many different opinions. So again, even from that point, take the medication the GP wants me to? Which one? I have to have an element of control in my health because of that, you know. So anyway, I wanted to talk to you guys about that and let you know what the actual story was, because like I said, maybe some of you have come to the conclusion that I don't listen to professionals, and I absolutely do. I know that I've got an interest, I know that I've got my own level of knowledge, but I also know that I'm not a specialist and I'm not a GP. GPs, remember, they're just there to direct you, to see if there's anything obvious, and then to direct you to a specialist if there's not, or to get tests to see if that can show them what's wrong. So I would probably rely more on the specialist than I would a GP, but like I said, I've never refused any medication. I think somebody else ironically left a comment saying, please don't have blind faith in GPs, and I just thought, isn't that funny, the two different comments on the same video saying you're just trusting blindly in GPs, and somebody else saying you're not trusting the GP. So people can obviously come to different conclusions, I think, based on your own sort of beliefs maybe. And I certainly wouldn't have blind faith in GPs either, because clearly I've been going, the other thing I listed here, I'm not going to go through them all, but I'll quickly talk about them. The misdiagnosis I've had. But one of the things is I've been going to the GP for 3 years saying I feel bloody awful every single day. I've had to close down my business. I can't work. Please help me. And nobody's mentioned menopause. So it does clearly pay off to do your own research and to be a bit of an advocate for yourself, you know. My knee, I had knee surgery, as you guys know, and I went to the GP who referred me to orthopedics. I saw somebody, this is, I don't know, 10 or so years ago, who said, you walk funny. This is before I got my diagnosis of Ehlers-Danlos loss. You walk funny, you just have to do physio. I was limping, like I couldn't walk anywhere, I was limping. So Kev said, let's get a second opinion. So we went private, but ironically, it was the same consultant, because, you know, that's how it works. NHS consultants work for private clinics. But he didn't recognise me when I saw him. It was 2 weeks later, it wasn't a long way away. But the treatment was completely different, and he was like, oh yeah, I can see your knee doesn't track right and you've got a button patella, I can do a lateral release for that. And I had an operation. And that was the same consultant. So that just shows you. And I've got a whole list of things, you know, like the ibuprofen. I was given ibuprofen for years, and then I kept going back with these stomach problems, and, you know, I'm getting all this indigestion. Nobody told me to stop the ibuprofen until I'd been in A&E twice and went to see a gastroenterologist and had the thing down my throat, you know. So yeah, I do think it pays to do your own research, but I do, of course, take their advice into account. That's my moan over. That's the HRT update over. I hope that was interesting to you. I hope you guys are all doing well. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know how your menopause is going if you're there. And I will speak to you again soon.